Hi everybody, this is Michael Hildebrandt and I'm your host on the Sleeptrust podcast, where I'm talking about how to gain back trust in your ability to have a superb sleep again.
In this week's episode of the Sleeptrust podcast, I'm going to share with you the top 2 methods to breathe yourself into sleep. Meaning that if you want to fall asleep faster than you might be doing it at the moment, doesn't matter if this is when you go to bed or if you wake up at nighttime and you want to fall asleep in 5 minutes or less, then these are 2 techniques that can help you to do so. So if you have a racing mind at times, feel stressed or worried at nighttime and that prevents you from falling asleep, then these techniques will help you to calm down, to let go, and to fall asleep peacefully and fast. And in next week's episode, I'm going to walk you through my top 2 methods when it comes to energizing our bodies to kickstart us, to kickstart you into your days super powerful too. But for now, we're talking about calming ourselves, resting, and falling asleep faster. So the first thing that we always want to keep in mind is that we go to bed with the intention to rest. Never, ever go to bed with intention to sleep. That's just going to build up some kind of a pressure in our inner self, and pressure is exactly the opposite of what we need when we want to fall asleep, right? So go to bed with intention to rest. And before we get started, in this week and the next week, we're walking through breathing exercises. So please practice these in a safe place. Don't do this in a car or at work or whatever. Practice these at home in a safe place, best when you're lying in bed. So to give you a picture of what we're doing here today with the breathing techniques, you can imagine it to be like working with a thermostat. Over the course of the day, we might become stressed. We might have a lot of thoughts in our mind that bring our minds to race, our bodies to feel stressed, building up stress hormone, cortisol, and others. And our breathing might be shallow. That's typically what happens when we're stressed. And what we're doing now is that we're practicing a breathing technique, which is going to calm our minds, which is going to calm our bodies. And it's like turning an internal thermostat that's pointing to stress down to calmness and relaxation. So the breathing techniques that we're doing are repetitive, whereas breathing tends to be repetitive, but now we're controlling it. We're focusing on our breath and our breathing. And that way, with each breath that we're taking, the thermostat gets pulled over to the calmness and the relaxation. And at some point, eventually, sleep will take over. We don't have to do anything about that. That's just something that will happen. So the first breathing technique that I want to walk you through today is called the 4-7-8 breathing technique. And the great thing about the 4-7-8 breathing technique is not only that it works really good, but that the description of what you have to do is already baked into the name. So what we're going to do is that we're going to breathe in for 4 seconds. Then we're going to hold our breath for 7 seconds. And we're going to exhale for 8 seconds. And then we're going to repeat that. So I'm going to walk through 1, 2, 3 rounds with you here together. And you can just opt in if you're lying in bed or if you're sitting on a chair or something where you're safe. And you can experience the relaxation with me together. So, by the way, 4, 7, 8 seconds. I also love to work with heartbeats instead of seconds. So you choose what works better for you, but focusing on your heartbeat has 2 big advantages. The first one is the time frame of a heartbeat is much more natural and internal than a second is. A second is kind of a mathematical thing, but a heartbeat is a very natural thing. So that's point number 1. And the second thing is that you will also experience that you focus even more on your inner self, on your well-being, how you're feeling right now. So that's a big second advantage. And talking to you right now, I even have a third one for you, because as soon as you relax, your heartbeats are going to slow down, and that's going to increase the time that you spend in the 4-7-8 state, right? So 3 advantages for you here. But now let's walk through round number 1, method number 1, and see how that works for you. So let's run through 2 or 3 rounds together now. Inhale 4 seconds, keep your breath for 7 seconds, and exhale for 8 seconds, right? So inhale. Keep your breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Keep your breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, I think you got the concept, and even doing this exercise twice absolutely relaxes me. And the 4-7-8 breathing technique is not only very effective, but it's also well known. So if you Google for 4-7-8 method, you'll find millions of links. And I've personally shared this technique with thousands of people. And one of those was my wife a couple of months ago, and she's not into meditation, I have to say that. So a couple of months ago, she had problems waking up at night, and she wasn't able to fall asleep quickly. So I gave her the technique, and I didn't think that she would use it. So 2 or 3 days later, she came over to me and said, guess what? Yesterday I woke up and I did the technique and I fell asleep right away. I said, yeah, what did you think? Of course, it's very relaxing. So with that, I'm going to move on to the second technique, because I promised to walk you through 2 techniques. And the second technique is something that I actually like even more. It's up to personal preference here. The second technique is a little bit easier, so it's not 3 steps, it's just 2 steps. And basically what we're going to do is that we're going to inhale and exhale for exactly the same amount of seconds heartbeats. And we're going to start small with, let's say, 4 heartbeats. Then we're going to raise it to 5 and 6. And at some point you'll notice that you reach something. It's supposed to be relaxing. So this is not a competition who can, get the most heartbeats or something like that. It's just to find a state where you feel really, really comfortable, where you notice that your thermostat is lowering down to calmness, to relaxation. Your heartbeat drops slightly, and that's exactly the state what we want to reach. So let's walk through that exercise together again. I'm going to breathe in now, and I'm going to try to count breathing in and breathing out to just let you know where we are. And we're just going to do a couple of rounds like we did it with the 4-7-8 technique, and you can just opt in if you're lying or sitting in a safe place right now. So let's get started. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. In. 1, 2, 3, 4. And out. 1, 2, 3, 4. In. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you just go on and let that breath flow in, flow out. No interruptions. It's one big calm flow now. In and out. And when you do that for a couple of times, for a couple of minutes, calmness will come and sleep will take over. We're just interested in resting. That's our intention. Never, 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 ever forget that your only intention is to rest. It's okay to be awake. It's okay to sleep. The body, the mind will take care of everything that's supposed to happen. You take care about your intention, your ability to take control, your ability and your right, actually, your natural right to rest. And that's something that you deserve to do, and that's something that you request and promote with these two techniques. And just to give you a better understanding of how important these breathing techniques are when it comes to getting you back to high energy levels and to deep, relaxing sleep, they're an essential part of a 9-step process that I walk each and every of my clients through to bring them from low energy levels, having bad, disturbed sleep, back to those high energy levels, feeling superb and energized again. And they're part of step number 6, where we're aligning our minds and doing everything with and for our minds to get us into that space. So that's just how important they are. And now it's up to you. You can say, I'm not into meditation or breathing techniques, and just move on and do something else and see what happens. Or you can give it a try, see and experience the calmness that you can get in just a couple of minutes with nothing else than breathing. And you've got nothing to lose. You have to breathe anyway. So that's the way I see it here. And with that, let's wrap up this week's episode of the Sleeptrust podcast. If your internal thermostat got turned to stress over the course of the day, then breathing techniques are a very effective and powerful and easy method to turn that thermostat back to calmness. You either want to test the 4-7-8 breathing technique or simply breathe in and out using the same amount of heartbeats for breathing in and out. And don't forget to never use these breathing techniques with the intention to fall asleep. Always use them with the intention to rest, and sleep will take care of its own. And that's it for this week's episode of the Sleeptrust podcast. I hope you enjoyed yourself and that you tune in next week when we are going to talk about 2 breathing techniques that you can use to energize and kickstart your day. Until then, have a superb sleep.
Hey there, and thanks for listening to the Sleeptrust podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you want to get further information on this podcast or material that will help you to gain back your sleep trust, please check out sleeptrust.eu. That's sleeptrust.eu, where you will get lots of information around sleep. And here comes some legal stuff. Everything on this podcast is my opinion only, so do not take it as an advice, as I am not a doctor, nor have I considered your personal situation. If you feel that you need medical advice, please consider getting an appointment at your doctor of trust. If you want to give me any kind of feedback on this podcast, feel free to email me at podcast@sleeptrust.eu. I hope you tune in again next week, and until then, have a good sleep.